Welcome back to Backward Point Podcast. My name is Nazar Sayed, and with me, as always, is my brother and my co host.
Bashar.
Today is a special day. It is a wonderful day to be a fan of the Greens, as we are. Bashar is wearing the sweatshirts, I'm wearing the hats. And it's a great day to be a fan of broken records. And that's what we have become today. We are on the side of history. We are talking about the Pakistan versus Sri Lanka World Cup game that has just passed. It's been a few hours. We've sat through a few highlights. We've seen what went down live, and then we've relived it multiple times over our TV screens. And we have lots of thoughts. What do you think?
I think to say this is a historic day in the history of cricket, the history of ODI cricket, in the history of ODI World Cup cricket, that would not be a wrong statement. We're coming off of an incredible win by Pakistan, a win that not many of us had expected. For me, it was sort of hoping against hope because when I saw the total on the board, 344 odd to chase for Pakistan, I thought this is too much for us. But then my mind went to the last game between South Africa and Sri Lanka, where South Africa hammered Sri Lanka's bowling. So that gave me hope. But then thinking of Pakistan's batting made me lose hope. So the hope was canceled out.
Yeah.
In mathematical terms.
Yes.
But we're here. Record-breaking chase. Pakistan's highest chase in World Cups. Pakistan's second highest chase in ODI history. And the highest chased score in the 48 year of this World Cup history. I think it's so fitting that just last night, me and you were watching the Ireland versus England match of the 2011 World Cup, which was until yesterday night when you were watching the highlights, that was the highest chased score in World Cup history. And the Pakistan team, our boys in green, have broken that record.
Wonderful to say that. Wonderful to finally experience that. Before we get into all of that, and trust me, we will get into all of that, we have to, have a word from our sponsors. And our sponsors are our fans, our supporters, our Patreon subscribers. We have to give them a shout out. They've been our number one supporters since this podcast has launched, and we have to give them the credits for keeping the lights on in this place. The number two people that I want to give a shout out to are the people on Discord, our fans on Discord. 10 out of 10 people, amazing sense of humor, quick responses. I was live tweeting, commenting throughout the entire game. As soon as I woke up at 6:30 a.m. with 30 overs done in the first innings, I was on Discord server of Backward Point, and I was just talking to these people, these friends, these jokesters, and we were basically just lamenting what was happening in the first innings and then rejoicing what was happening in the second innings. A completely beautiful community, and I'm so glad that we were able to create it, but so happy that the Discord people were able to populate it and make it into this fun and rather beautiful place to be in right now, actually.
Yeah, I think we've built a really brilliant community of like-minded people, non-toxic people. Whenever I go to a Discord channel, I always get positive vibes, constructive criticism, and that's something I feel that's typically lacking in the average Pakistani fan. And even the suggestions or the analysis that's being done on that Discord channel is a very high level. I'm taking notes from that channel. We have close to 300 people, so we're looking to further grow that community. The link for our Discord community can be found in the description of this video.
I couldn't even believe that we were able to find 300 non-toxic people. That's insane to me. That itself should be in the Guinness Book of World Records, but it's true. These people are amazing. A lot of our Patreon fans are also on the Discord servers because they have their own, private channel. They talk there as well, but they're mostly just mingling in the public channel. Then it's lovely to see them there. That whole vibe was completely amazing. And you know what? It's going to be a great time on Saturday when it's Pakistan versus India.
It's going to be lit, and hopefully we don't need to use the PCT therapy voice lounge.
Yes, it almost went on today. It almost was about to be broken down.
At what point? I mean, let's get into the match, actually. I would say Pakistan's bowling up front, one of the most dangerous players that I thought would have been going into this match was Kusal Perera. Luckily, Hassan Ali redemption arc. It's loading, guys. We called it in the podcast here. He got the early breakthrough of Kusal Perera, but then Nissanka and Mendes built a partnership we have to talk about that drop catch from Imam ul Haq on backward point. Was it backward point or was it just point?
It was backward point. It was definitely backward point. And there's a clip that I saw of Shoaib Malik on his show, The Pavilion, where he kept calling it backfoot point and unforgivable Malik.
Speaking of that show, Wasim Bhai, we talked about how good he is with names last episode. He called Abdullah Shafique Asadullah Shafique.
The genius of the man. The genius of the man. Speaking of names butchered, Vicky Bhai on air on the comms box called Samara Vikrama Singhe. Legends.
Bro,
Sitara Imtiaz.
I can't.
Sitara Imtiaz to these people. So this is, and again, talking about a Discord server, people were making fun of that. Fender Dusa is like a legend now in the game, in the name. Makram is also a legend. Velalalage is like his career has ended. You can see that. Completely destroyed after Waz was like taking shots at his name. But yeah, it's just the first 30 overs I slept through and you slept through because of the timing of the game, where usually we wake up around 7 a.m. That's about 35 overs in.
Actually, this is the life of an overseas Pakistani living in North America. The game starts at 4:30 a.m. here. So I wake up periodically before I have to get up for work, which is around like 8:30, 9 a.m. And when the first time that I woke up, it was around like 5 a.m. And I saw Sri Lanka was 1 wicket down and Pakistan had the scoring rate sort of in control. And then I wake up again to drink water and Sri Lanka is again just playing average cricket. They're 20 overs, around 120 runs. And then I wake up again and 40 overs, Sri Lanka is cruising. They're like around 280, 290. And I'm thinking at this point, they might score 400. But then when I wake up again for the final time, I see that they've only scored 344. So you have to give credit to how Pakistan bowled last 10 overs. They only gave 61 runs. And the key to holding the scoring rate down was taking wickets, in my opinion.
Yeah, they took 5 in that last 10. And you've described the life of an overseas Pakistani fan, a Pakistani cricket fan, completely justly. This is exactly the game nights for me are horrible because I cannot sleep. I always feel like I'm going to oversleep. I'm going to miss like the first entire innings. I'm not going to be, competent enough to be on the podcast, etc., etc. There's a lot of nightmarish scenarios in my head when game night is happening. So that was exactly my experience as well, except I had an alarm for 6:45 a.m. and I woke up 10 minutes before the alarm, checked the scores, couldn't believe it. Alarm goes off. I freak out, turn off the alarm. And I was just in my bed for the next like 20, 30 minutes until I believe Mendes went out. And then soon after, like a few overs later, Samara Vikram also went out. And then I went downstairs and I watched the last 6, 7 overs. Beautiful bowling. I witnessed it. The bowling that I saw live in the last 10 overs was contrastly very different from what was going on in the previous 40 overs. So I thought, how did this bowling attack get whipped for 300 runs? Because at that time they were at like 280 or something. Because they were bowling great in the last 5, 6 overs. They took wickets in a timely fashion, block holds. Haris Shroff was quick. Hassan Ali took a redemption arc we're talking about. He was sent for 70 runs, but on this pitch, 70 runs is like 40, and 4 wickets is just like 6. Honestly, this is every ounce of Hassan Ali's body, every cricketing knowledge that he has was applied to this pitch, and he came out, I think, with decent numbers. Haris Shroff even came out with decent numbers. The point of concern is Shaheen Afridi. He went for 66 in 9 overs with 1 wicket. And honestly, he just seemed slow, sluggish, fatigued. There was laziness in his bowling. He was coming round the wicket as opposed to over the wicket. There was no seam, no swing. He was faltering down the leg side. He was getting whipped for 4s. I mean, there was definitely that drop chance from Imam, which was a sitter. He should have caught it. He's a better fielder than that. He's a definitely better fielder than that. And we expect him to do these things. But just that drop chance seemed to sort of double down on the weight that he was feeling. I could not understand what was going on to him. His average pace was around 130, 132. This is not even the Shaheen Afridi from the Asia Cup. This is like a different situation going all together. What do you think is going on? Is there something? I mean, is it a Fakhar Zaman situation for Shaheen where there's a mental blockage? He's not able to reach those heights. He's trying too hard. What's going on with him? Because this is not who we know him.
I think there's a few things to be said about Shaheen Afridi's poor form. And I think it is something to do with his knee injury not being fully healed. There's talks about his finger not being well. He injured his finger, if you remember, while attempting to take the catch of Shubman Gill in the Asia Cup off of Naseem Shah's bowling. So it's been a few weeks since that happened. I'd be surprised if that didn't fully heal. Uh, but it feels like it was after that moment where his bowling declined, his pace declined. He's not he's swinging the ball up front, but it's not on target. And we talked last episode of the podcast where there's two Shaheen Afridis. There's one pre-injury, which was before he hurt his knee in Sri Lanka while diving, and then the Shaheen post-injury. Those are two different bowlers, in my opinion. Their speeds, their accuracy, how lethal they were. Shaheen, being Shaheen, came back from injury and was still almost as good, but not really as good as what Shaheen levels are. And if you recall, when this podcast was under a different name, we did a detailed episode of Shaheen Afridi's comeback. And the verdict from me was, I don't think Shaheen Afridi should have tried to return back to cricket so early from a knee injury. He had a PCL tear, which is a huge injury. It's basically with the same injury that Kane Williamson has, and he hasn't played cricket since the last 6 to 7 months. And Shaheen Afridi, on the other hand, came back after 3 to 4 months. Mind you, Shaheen Afridi is a bowler, and he hurt his bowling knee, the knee where he lands on and sort of pivots from to generate all his pace. So Shaheen rushed through, coming back to injury, and then just as when he was looking back in full rhythm during the World T20 final in 2022, he took a catch, dove on his knee, and hurt his knee again. And again, I feel like just my assessment is that he came back to the PSL too early. His pace was down, his swing was there, but just not fully there. And then just a further decline because he's just been playing all these leagues all over the world. He was playing the 100, he was playing the Vitality Blast, and then back to Pakistan team for the Afghanistan series, the Asia Cup, and now he's playing the World Cup. So I think it's a combination of fatigue. It's a combination of, I feel, his knee not healing properly. I saw him dive to stop one of the boundaries today, and he again dove on his knee, and his immediate reaction was to grab his knee and just feel for it for assessment. So this is exactly what happens when you rush back from injuries, when you prioritize the T20 World Cup over the next 10 years of your career. Shaheen Afridi is a gem for Pakistan cricket. He is a once in a decade bowler, and I feel like the PCB or Shaheen himself should have managed his injury better. Muhammad Amir, you can give him all the hate you want, but there's one thing he mentioned in an interview a few years ago, which didn't click with me then, but it's clicking with me now. He mentioned that how when he came back from injury, from his ban, Pakistan team played him for all the matches of all the games ever possible. Side matches, practice matches, 5-match ODI series, test series. He's playing everything. And his body broke down. And he said, I'm fearing the same thing might happen to Shaheen Afridi, where we were playing him all the games, all the test series, even against Netherlands, even against Afghanistan. We're not giving him proper rest. We're not managing his workload. And just with his age and his eagerness to, cash on his name, being the Eagle, being Shaheen Afridi, wanting to play all these leagues, ultimately he is damaging the future prospect of what his career could be. I was looking at Shaheen to be a bowler who could take potentially 300 test wickets for Pakistan, 400 even. But with his injury, with his lack of rhythm, that may not be possible. And this is going to be a huge loss for Pakistan. Because ultimately, aside from Shaheen, the Pakistan cricket team is being at loss here. If we're not seeing a Shaheen in full rhythm for the World Cup, and also having been said that we don't have a backup, we don't have the bench strength to cover up for Shaheen Afridi, what is Pakistan's chances in the World Cup going forward?
I wanted to counter that for a second, because how do you explain the 142, 143 that he was bowling regularly in the Asia Cup?
I think that was the game against India. I mean, when you're playing against India, the adrenaline is pumping. You find the extra Ks in your body.
So you're saying that on Saturday we're going to see the 145 come back?
I really hope so. But when I was seeing him bowl today, he just seemed off color. Like I've hardly ever seen a Shaheen Afridi bowling over the wicket or around the wicket not his typical angle with the new ball. Because we all know, every kid knows that Shaheen Afridi with the new ball, looking to swing the ball back into the right-hander, into the pads, onto the wickets, off of a good length. And he wasn't on target. Like, this is not the Shaheen that we know of. Like, the Shaheen we know gets Rohit Sharma out first ball, pulling a W in the T20 World Cup. So where has that Shaheen gone? Are we still looking for him? Is he somewhere still there? Can we expect him to come back? Because we have to also understand how crucial of a role Shaheen Afridi plays in the Pakistan team. Like, if Shaheen Afridi does not take wickets up front, that puts a pressure on bowlers that are to come. Hassan Ali on the other end, a Haris Rauf that's going to come, and out of form Shadab Khan. So it just has a domino effect. And that just it's what makes Shaheen Afridi's role even more critical to Pakistan's chances of winning.
So, do you warrant a knee injury to be the reason of wavering line and length?
Well, if
I can see how that could be for pace, but for line and length,
if you're not fully confident on where you're going to land on, the knee you're going to snap off of, you may not know exactly what the ball is pitching. And also, if you're not in full bowling rhythm, then you're definitely not bowling on target.
I see. Is it the same case for Hassan Ali, who's bowling at 128, 130?
Yeah. Last podcast, we talked about how Hassan's pace was around 132, 131. And in this match, I've noticed his pace has decreased even further. So this is such a huge shift, because I remember this graphic from the Asia Cup where it showed Pakistan's fast bowling trio, Shaheen, Naseem, and Haris average pace, their fastest balls. And Haris Rauf's average pace was like 146. Naseem Shah was 143. And Shaheen was 140 plus, 140.1. And that just has gone, like, everyone's like lost 10Ks. Like, what's happened? Like, what are you eating in India? The Hyderabadi biryani, that you've lost pace. You're not bowling at full rhythm. And again, you might get away with bowling at this pace against Sri Lanka, against Netherlands. Come Saturday against India and Ahmedabad, they will make sure that they mess Pakistan's line length up, that they ensure that they use the lack of pace to their advantage.
The silver lining is that we were able to take 5 wickets for 65 at the end of that debacle, which was the Pakistani
For 61?
bowling. Yeah, sorry, my bad. 61 for 5 wickets in the last 10 overs. Insane comeback. That's what I wrote in the notes. You can check it out on the Patreon account, guys. I think it was a better death bowling from him. I think that him and Hassan Ali really wound things up. Even Haris Rauf came in and sort of steadied that ship, because you were right. This score was inching closer and closer to 400. And the fact that we wrapped them up for 344, that's a win, in my opinion. 344 on a pitch that was easily going to be scoring 400. Like, if you reverse the situation where Pakistan is batting first, Pakistan scores 400. Pakistan bats till number 11. Even Haris Islamabadi can come out and score some, So the fact that Pakistan were able to do that, props to the bowlers where the props are supposed to be given. This was a good comeback performance where they were giving 82, 88 runs in 10 overs. They came back 61 for 5 in the last 10. I appreciate that. Then came time for Pakistan's batting.
I would even want to credit Pakistan's fielding towards the later half of the innings, like the catch that Imam took in the end. I believe it was a catch of Kusal Mendes himself.
Even Afridi's catch was quite good. It was quite high. They came back. He went under the ball. He wanted to make sure. Lots of reverse cupping we're seeing. We're seeing lots of reverse cupping. I don't know how I feel about that, because that's the number one reason why we dropped catches. All I say is save the reverse cupping for the Aussies.
Remember when Umar Akmal used to do that on the boundary? Reverse cup?
Why would you do that to me? Why would you bring up Umar Akmal's name on this podcast
yesterday
when we're talking about the most amazing thing that's happened in Pakistan cricket?
Yesterday, I was just YouTubing AB de Villiers podcast, and the second search result comes up as Umar Akmal podcast on Daniel Chik.
Yeah, I know.
What is going on?
I mean, it's the only...
Is YouTube tripping or not?
It's the feds. They like Umar Akmal.
It's rigged.
It's all rigged. Like, the fact that even came up, it's insane. I saw that screenshot on Backward Point Instagram, and I was like, damn it.
I couldn't believe it.
They got us. Yeah, so Pakistan batting, Pakistan comes to bat. Abdullah Shafique was in for Fakhar Zaman, and Abdullah and Imam opened up.
That's a very important thing to talk about, because we spoke extensively on how Pakistan should continue to back Fakhar Zaman. Fakhar Zaman could be that Inzamamul Haq figure for Pakistan in this World Cup.
Turns out it was ABD all along.
It was ABD was the Inzwan, bro. We were lacking on that.
I don't think we were wrong for backing Fakhar though. I don't think it was a out of the box thinking or even an irrational thought to have Fakhar continue on, at least for this game. I see the pros and cons for both situations. I see arguments for both sides. One argument was if Fakhar doesn't perform here, then you put an ABD against India that is, still undercooked and you lead him to disaster. So the management decision was to let ABD cook right now, get him settled in. So when he's coming in with India, he's a bit more settled in the top two.
Question for you. Was Fakhar Zaman dropped or was he rested? Those are two very different things. If you're rested, that means he's going to come back in the next few games of the World Cup. If he's dropped and now ABD has scored 100, and that was one of the questions of one of the Instagram folks, is that the end of Fakhar Zaman in this World Cup, or are we going to see him come back? And it's also really funny how when Fakhar was playing, ABD looks good. And now that ABD has come in for Fakhar, Imam is out of form. And now people are like, let's bring Fakhar Zaman in for Imam ul Haq. I don't know how an out of form Fakhar can replace an out of form Imam, and that's somehow a better combination.
I know you keep Imam for sure, 100%. Imam is not out of form. He's just playing horrendous shots. If you want to talk about that Imam wicket, I'm all for it.
2 dismissals. He's getting out the same way, the same exact ball, same field positioning. Last 2 matches. That's a short delivery. And you best believe India will come out to him with the same tactics. You're going to see a bouncer. You're going to see a deep fine leg there to take that catch. I think Imam, if you can leave a ball outside of off stump, why can't you leave a ball that's a bouncer? Because he looked good. That straight drive he hit was a classical. I thought Imam is back.
Yeah, I was expecting big runs from him today as well. To go back to your first question real quick, is Fakhar rested or dropped? I think he was rested and now he's dropped. Does that make sense?
Feel like he was... Okay, that's also an interesting prospect because, is that the end of Fakhar Zaman? If Abdullah Shafique has played the innings of his lifetime, he has solidified himself with the rest of the World Cup, how does Fakhar Zaman come back into the team? We talked about, in the few episodes ago, we talked about the Karachi agenda, the Saim Ayub agenda, and I mentioned that my future ideal opening batting pair for Pakistan or ODIs is going to be Abdullah Shafique and Saim Ayub. Abdullah Shafique is now there. He has cemented himself. When do we bring in Saim?
For the ODIs, it's a bit too quick because Imam hasn't really shown that he has failed. A little bit of a bad patch, a couple of bad shots. It doesn't mean that Imam is not a class player. He's one of the greatest openers Pakistan has. That's a fact of life.
But has Pakistan had great openers?
Saeed Anwar.
That's the only name that comes to mind.
My boy Vasti. What are you talking about?
I have a hot take. Imam is a great opener, but only for Pakistan terms. If you compare Imam to other global openers like a Shubman Gill, a David Warner, who's the New Zealand opener? Devin Conway. You'll notice Imam's strike rate is way below all of those players. I think Imam's career strike rate is 82, 83, which is extremely low considering modern day cricket and how other teams are playing. So the take is, yes, Imam is a great opener just in terms of Pakistan opening cricket ODI history terms. But if you compare him to other cricket teams, I think he's an average opener.
I don't know if you need to compare him to other teams. Does he need to be in everyone's ODI 11 of all time? No. But for what Pakistan needs right now, he does the job. He comes in, he stabilizes the innings, he keeps one wicket, safe on one end. He's not doing that in the past few games, but that's what he typically does. He'll take 30, 40 odd balls, run a ball or maybe like 20, 30 off 40 balls. And then as soon as he crosses his 50 or high 40s, he unleashes. And that's what you need from your opener. You want him to anchor from one end. That's why the Fakhar Imam combination was so vital, was because they complemented each other. One was explosive, one was defensive, and it worked. Abdullah Shafique is not explosive. He does become explosive later on when he becomes more confident in himself. But that's fine. That's what Pakistan cricket requires, stability at the top. This is a Pakistan cricket team that has not hit a 6 in the last 1,000 balls in the power play this year.
Right, but
that's a fact.
But they've still managed to make a record of the highest World Cup chase.
So what does that tell you? Do we need that modernity in our top 3? No.
No, I think maybe not right now, but in the future, if there is room for further improvement, why not explore the option?
Yeah. So when that
So
when-
either Imam adapts his game and plays cricket in the power play, or we know we have Saim Ayub in the bench.
Saim Ayub, I don't know if he's ready for ODI cricket. I don't even know if he's ready for T20 international cricket. I haven't seen him yet.
Bro, he was the highest run scorer in the CPL, most sixes, most runs.
CPL. T20 international, I said. I need to see these scores. I need to see him play a few innings. I need to see him in the green before I can make any judgment like that. We love hyping people up. We do this on this podcast all the time, but I want to see stats. I want to see numbers. I don't want to see a list A match of 5 and make Abdullah Shafique open. He totally deserves it, and he's made some good runs, and obviously will continue to do that. But that's throwing somebody in the deep end, and I'm not a fan of that.
If you're a fan of the podcast, you know that how big of a Babar stan my brother here is. I'm also a huge Babar stan, by the way.
The fact that you have to justify it means that you're not. So whatever.
Okay. But the question here is Babar Azam gets out to. It's a very soft dismissal. He looked very good. The first ball he hit was for a lovely mid wicket chip for a boundary, and we thought this could be the beginning of a Babar Azam knock that the Pakistanis are yearning to see. However, Babar got off for a soft dismissal. It was down the leg side. He went out chasing for it, got a soft nick to it, and Babar was walking back to the pavilion.
Yeah, I usually am not pissed off at situations that Babar gets off. He usually gets off on rippers. Like, there's that odd patch there where he loves throwing his wicket to part-timers that we're not going to talk about that. But usually it's a ripper. It's like one of those Panya deliveries where you just cannot do anything. It's usually something where somebody takes an extraordinary catch, off the surface movement that just is unaccounted for, something of that nature. This wicket was just horrendous. This was absolutely just lack of focus, lack of judgment, lazy. It felt like he was just chasing a ball. Some people are like calling it instinctive. You're Babar Azam. You're the number 1 ODI player of the world. Your instincts should be sharper than that. Like, I was watching the game live at this point, and I could see that the bowler was setting him up.
They were targeting the legs.
This was the third ball that was going down the legs. One of them was a wide, one of them he chipped to mid wicket, and then third one he again chased it down, flicked it. Right? Yeah. Any other day, that same delivery could have just been a little bit more, the edge could have been more thicker, fine leg 4. 100%. But the fact that you have put yourself in a position where now you were kind of vulnerable to that leg side area, a ball that should have been dispatched for 4 on any other day, it just looks bad on you. This is a flat track in Hyderabad. This is your 4th game there. You've been there for about 10, 12 days. You were calling it your second home. The crowd is there for you. You should have scored big. There's no excuse for that. I will hold Babar Azam accountable for this. I even felt like at the post-match presentation, he seemed a little sheepish. He didn't seem a super duper confident. After the record that his team, put forth for the world to see, he should have been a bit more confident. But I think it comes back to just his abysmal performance. I'm not saying that this is going to be the Babar Azam that we're going to see, but this is the Babar Azam that we've been seeing. Let me throw some numbers at you and tell me what these mean to you, okay?
I know you're going to bring up some stats about his last few innings. We also, especially this is more shocking because the fact that Babar Azam in multinational tournaments, their stats circulating around. If you take his innings out of the 151 he scored against Nepal, his stats are quite abysmal. And this is including the last Asia Cup, the last World T20, and last year's Asia Cup. And also now if you add the last 2 innings against Sri Lanka and Netherlands, Babar Azam's stats are horrendous in these tournaments. And we talked a lot about how is Babar Azam a clutch player or not. And these are 2 flops in matches that Pakistan really needed Babar to step up. Call them good deliveries, call them rippers, call them lazy shots. But ultimately, like we were discussing a lot of questions on Instagram where are these innings going to tarnish Babar's legacy? Yes, they will. When someone like Abdullah Shafique can come in and notch up a great century, Rizwan can score a century. Babar's contributions in these matches are lacking. There's something called being negative, toxic negativity, but there's also toxic positivity. And if I'm going to be a toxic positive person, I will say, looking at the law of averages, Babar Azam has flopped the last 4 or 5 innings internationally. Does that mean there's a century loading in Ahmedabad?
I don't want to say anything. I don't know yet. I honestly don't know. I am more confident that we will see big runs from Rizzi, Ifti, and even Imam before we might see big runs from Babar Azam. Now, that being said, I hope that I'm proven wrong. I hope that he comes back and scores a big century. Nothing will please me more. Nothing will fuel me more in this world than to see a century from Babar Azam against India. It's long overdue. It's what people want. It's what he needs to finally solidify his place as the one that Pakistan needs and the one that the one that will take Pakistan out of this darkness. He is going to be that person. And if he wants to be that person, if he wants to be that savior, he has to perform on Saturday. Without a doubt. He put Pakistan into a position of 37 for 2. It seemed like we were playing 90s cricket again. It seemed like Ahmed Shahzad is batting again in 2013. It felt very reminiscent of toxic era Pakistan cricket, and it upset me. But then, before the storm is the calm, and that was the calm. Because when ABD and Rizwan were on strike, I was watching this unfold in front of my eyes, and this is how I describe it. It's first 10 overs panic, next 10 overs stability, next 10 overs, I think we're going to win this. That's
Dominance.
the trajectory. Dominance. That was the trajectory. I don't know what to say about ABD's innings except that it was flawless. It reminded me of poetry. It reminded me of stability. It reminded me of push and pull and tension and action. And it reminded me of will and faith and hope and just all these beautiful, magnificent things to all tied in together. There was chaos in the beginning and there was stability and there was just complete unleashment, if even that is a word, just completely free and devoid of all worries and just a freeing innings. And that carried over to Rizu, who's just in the form of his life and he's just playing through cramps. He's acting, he's producing. What is he? Like, he's a part of cinema. He is what Martin Scorsese is talking about when he talks about cinema, not the Marvel movies. It's Rizwan. It's Mohammad Rizwan. And both of those factors combined together, I don't know what to tell you. It's that combination that makes me believe in Pakistan cricket. It's the combination that makes me a cricket fan in general. Everything was on display that night, and it was just a delight to see it. I will tell my kids about this. I was there when Pakistan were down in the dust and they came out and made sure that they won with balls to spare. A comfortable win. 6 wickets is a comfortable win. And there's nothing better. This is not the team that you would have put up even last week to be like, this team is going to score the highest runs. Is going to hit the highest runs and then chase them down. It's just a brilliant performance altogether. And it's a very Pakistan performance. Nobody else could do this.
You know what's crazy and what's so Pakistan cricket is that 2 of our top performers the last 2 matches, Abdullah Shafique and Saud Shakil, they were not even part of Pakistan's initial World Cup squad planning. So this is just crazy stuff. I think Pakistan did also get very lucky. There were some drop catches, but the saying goes, the harder I work, the luckier I got. And Abdullah Shafique today, the ball's on this guy. He has an ability to show up at the initial parts of his career. He scored a century on T20 debut, century on first class debut, and now century on World Cup ODI debut. So just an incredible knock. He looked like a surgeon to me out there, how he was crafting these shots. Incredibly well played down the ground. Some of the shots that he was hitting straight, he was coming down the ground using his feet, and the pull shots he hit, the cut shots he hit, just looked like a proper batsman. And I want to give some credit here to Misbah ul Haq, who initially was the one that spotted Abdullah Shafique, and he took him on tour with the Pakistan team to New Zealand, and he gave Abdullah Shafique his first T20I debut cap. Abdullah flopped in that series, and Misbah got a lot of criticism for that. But now we know why Misbah backed this player. ABD has mentioned in his interviews that he gives a lot of credit to his batting to Misbah ul Haq, who picked him as a coach, to Yunus Khan, who worked with him when Miss Yunus was the batting coach, and also Muhammad Yusuf. So if you have a batsman like Abdullah Shafique, who's been trained and taught by a Misbah, a Yunus, and Inzamam, the cornerstones of Pakistan cricket batting, you do expect ABD to put up these scores. And we've always known on this podcast, if you look at past episodes, we've spoken very highly of ABD just because of how natural of a talent he looks, how technically correct he is, how easy on the eyes he is.
And you just talk about the shot that he hit over cover when he came down the ground and he smashed it over the inner circle for 4. That firstly went straight like a bullet, and it was just so magnificent to look at. There was a moment where, I tweeted off from the Backward Point account on Twitter, we believe in 56 and 57. And genuinely watching them bat together, even though it was for a little while, and they've batted together before as well in the Asia Cup, it's a delight.
The king and the prince?
The king and the prince, the master and his apprentice. It's just one of those things where I see 2 generations of Pakistani batsman greatness playing together. And, because Babar at one point was just batting alone. He's a pioneer of this new era of Pakistan cricket right after Safi. We didn't have a greatest of all time from that era of, I want to say, since like Imam retired 2007 to 2017. That 10-year drought. Who did we have who was an ODI player who was there for Pakistan through thick and thin? Nobody. We had bursts from him and them together maybe, but
are you saying that Shoaib Masood was not there? Are you saying Nasir Jamshed did not score centuries against India? What are you saying here?
I'm just pissed you took these names.
But yeah,
I'm genuinely pissed.
On a serious note, though, Babar Azam had to walk so Abdullah Shafique can run.
And it's not just Abdullah Shafique. This is the power of having a magnanimous player like Babar, because Babar inspires not just Abdullah, but he inspires Haris, he inspires Saim, he inspires Tayyib Tahir, he inspires the next 10 years of Pakistani batsmen. And this will start a precedence, because whenever the day comes, and that dark day will come one day, where Babar Azam retires, we will see a fleet of Pakistani batsmen ready to take his place. Just as Tendulkar retired, there was a fleet of Indian batsmen ready to take his place. Just as AB de Villiers retired, and Makram is there to take his place. There are legacies, there are legends that come through acts like this, and it was just beautiful to see ABD and Babar bat together. I wish that partnership would have been longer. I wish that Babar comes into his own, which he will. This is a long tournament. We're in the first, not even a quarter of this tournament starting. We're in the 8th game. So I have big hopes for everyone here. And I would be remiss to not talk about Rizwan. I think we should give him a little bit more time. He was the player of the match. He was the one who not only anchored and supported a novice ABD, but he guided him through the thickness, through the jungle of this Sri Lankan bowling. And props to him. There's a sign of a team player, a sign of a good batsman, when he is not just an individual player, but a team player, where batsmen, teammates, players around him are comfortable being around him. That's the aura that Rizwan brings to the pitch. And you can see it in that 176 run partnership.
It was the Batman, the Robin. There's one thing to score runs, but there was one more thing to get Abdullah to score those runs, because he was, like you mentioned, on ODI World Cup debut. And for Rizwan to come in at number 4, lots of criticism for him to pick this number. But time and time again in the recent past, he's performed incredibly well at this stage. 131 off 121 balls, 8 fours, 3 sixes. We spoke of how Abdullah played incredibly down the ground, but my favorite shots from this match were when Rizwan went inside out. I think those are some incredible shots. And just what a true fighter Rizwan is, sometimes it's cramps, sometimes it's acting. And I think
I love that. I think that's going to be 1 minute down, next minute up.
We got to make that into a shirt.
I would love to.
Backward Point merchandise dropping soon.
I don't think we can copyright what Rizwan said, but I believe that's going to be on everyone's tongues, because that's just a beautiful moment.
Yeah. So, and then Rizwan, people were saying it's very smart of him to fake those injuries, because that just helps him buy some time and break the momentum of the other team. But if you ask me, the only team who really gained momentum, like you mentioned, past the first 10 to 20 overs, was the Pakistan team. It seemed like every shot that they were hitting was going in the gaps. They were running hard between the wickets. And also a moment to just give credit to the Hyderabadi crowd. I really felt like Pakistan at one point was playing in Lahore or Karachi with the amount of support that they were getting, and almost felt like an English crowd where they were just genuinely supporting cricket. They were supporting a wicket that was falling. They were supporting runs that were being scored. So just good to see from a cricketing standpoint. This was probably after the India match, the most filled stadium match of this tournament so far.
Yeah, I
So
think the Indian crowd finally showed up. It took them 8 games, but here they are now. So Mohsen Ahmed from Patreon asked right about this Babar Azam and his innings situation. Do you think the captaincy is hurting Babar's ability to perform well with the bat? Seems like he hasn't been able to put up strong totals in tournaments since becoming captain.
So I would disagree with that just because Babar's stats post captaincy have been incredibly well. However, his captaincy, so his batting records just in multi-nation tournaments, the past 3 to 4 tournaments have not been well.
3 to 4 is a lot of
Okay,
tournaments.
so maybe it is the captaincy. Maybe it is a lot on his mind because you have to consider the PCB is in shambles. Like there's a new chairman every 3 months, right? There's a new selection committee. There's a new coaching staff. The only thing that's sort of constant and stable is Babar Azam as your captain. And it's shocking to see so many people out there pulling his leg, wanting to bring him down, not realizing that 3 of Pakistan's 5 highest ODI run chases have come under the captaincy of Babar Azam, where he has played a significant role in at least the last in 2 of those 5 matches, right? So it is a change in mindset. It is a change in approach. This is the hashtag Pakistan way, and credits do go to Babar Azam. So I think he is just a figure in the dressing room that you need, someone that you mentioned people look up to. But batting wise, yes, he needs to step up his game when it comes to these multinational tournaments because these will eventually impact his legacy and how clutch he is.
I think you automatically answered Hamza's questions also from Patreon. He asked, do you think the team's low morale has a lot to do with the PCB's mismanagement of the players' payments? Not to say that our boys are in it for the money, but this game is their livelihood. They shouldn't have to worry about how they'll bill their bills, especially how much esteem they've brought back to Pakistan cricket, which you've answered. I think there's a hodgepodge of all of this going on, and it does take an effect on Babar Azam as the captain. But even if he wasn't the captain, I think this would have taken an effect as Babar Azam, the senior player. Now, this is generally a situation where it is internal, it is PCB's own affairs, but they've been going on for way too long. And something's got to give when the Pakistan team comes back with or without a trophy. There has to be a big overhaul in that regard. That's a whole other podcast that we might get into whenever. But Bashar, just before we go, I just wanted to quickly talk about these key moments. Let me give you these, shoot you off some numbers. Ready?
Go.
176 off 156 balls. That's the ABD Rizzu partnership. And Karachi Agenda, as always, Saud and Rizzu partnership, 95 of 68. Crucial for that win.
If the Mania cameo in the end,
If the
22
randomness-
off 10.
If the randomness comes off, scores 22 off 10.
I called this in the Discord, by the way. I said if he's going to finish the match, and he sort of brought in that impetus towards the end and helped Pakistan finish with 10 balls to spare.
Of course, and it helps the NRR, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I really quickly wanted to mention before we signed off is how bad is the comms recently? Like, I was genuinely noticing it, and I was like, no way that this is as bad as I think it is. Like, it feels like Vicky Bhai and Ramiz are just incapable of being nice to their own team. They have to sort of pull down their team to praise the other team. Like, there's better ways to do this, guys. Like, it's genuinely disheartening. And somebody even said that the leading wicket taker of this World Cup is Ramiz Raja. Whenever he comes on the comms, somebody goes out. And
have you heard Vicky Bhai say his catchphrase, different ball game altogether?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, I feel like he's saving it for the India-Pakistan game because
The
that
big
is
moments.
That's where I want to hear it.
So we watched some football here and there. I watched the last FIFA World Cup final, and my holy grail of commentary is Peter Dury. We hope that cricket can have Peter Dury. I think there are good commentators with Nasir Hussain, Ian Bishop, Atherton,
that's it.
Ian Smith, Harsha Bogle.
Yo, Hayden is pretty good.
Hayden's not bad.
Hayden's not bad.
The point is, we aspire to be Peter Dury level commentary. We want to see moments that go on to live in the history books of cricket. And oftentimes, it is the commentary that sort of enhances the moments. You look back at when Pakistan won the World Cup in 2009, Shaheen Afridi, boom, it's a leg by, who cares? Ramiz against India in the Asia Cup, where Afridi hit 2 sixes to Ashwin. Shaheen Afridi, you beauty. Nasir Hussain, Pakistan team, 1 minute down, next minute up.
Ian Smith.
Bishop, Carlos Brathwaite, remember the name?
Ian Smith. in 2019 World Cup final.
By the barest margin. So the point is, commentary is very critical, and it sort of improves the watcher experience. And as watchers, as fans of the sport, we just hope that commentators put in more effort. I saw a video of Peter Dury and the notes he has before a match, how he prepares to commentate on a 90-minute match. He has pages and pages of notes in front of him to feed from, to refer to, and we hope one day cricket will have the same thing.
Yeah, that's why I love Wasim Bhai, and I'm so glad he's on the pavilion and not in the comms box. That's all I'm going to say. In order to have someone like Peter Drury in the comms box, you need announcers. You need commentators. You cannot have retired cricket players commentating. That's not what they're equipped for. They're equipped for playing cricket, and we should keep it like that. On to India. What to expect? 2 words before we leave.
Expect the unexpected.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna retweet that. Pakistan is second on the table right now with 4 points and a net run rate of 0.93. Seems pretty good. I would like to keep that. I would say stop the tournament right now. Let's play the playoffs, but that's not how it works.
So we talked about Pakistan only needing 6 wins of their 9 matches to qualify. They've already gotten 2, which is why I'm very happy Pakistan is going with 4 points in the India game. Even if they happen to lose somehow, they'll still have a chance to qualify for semis. And they'll only pick themselves up and bounce back. And if they win, that'll just be different ball game altogether.
Pakistan India preview coming soon as well. Definitely coming soon. Don't think that we're gonna miss out on that opportunity to talk about the biggest game in sport that's happening on Saturday. Stay tuned. Thank you guys for listening in. Check out the Patreon. Check out the Discord servers. Check out, if you guys aren't subscribed, subscribe. What the hell are you guys doing without being subscribed? Shout out to our Spotify listeners. They are the community that I feel are the low key, the Rizwan and the ABD of this podcast. Silently just watching, tuning in, and just they're the kings the unspoken kings. We would love you guys to rate and review, because that just puts you guys to like Virat Kohli levels, guys. Spotify listeners, the Apple Podcast listeners, you guys are the kings and queens of this podcast. Thank you very much. I don't think I have anything else to say. I was ecstatic. I'm so glad I woke up. I watched this whole thing. I experienced as much as I could. The down moments, the rejoiceful moments. This is Pakistan Cricket. This is Nader Sayed. I love this podcast. Thank you very much, guys. Good night.
Good night. Cheers.